What is up, down, and sideways, you beautiful individuals? It is another epi of League on Lock. Eric and Mark here with you guys, and on a Valentine's Day with love in the air. The love, my Valentine now, is Thundertalk Gaming, because they talked their talk. They brought the thunder, they brought the lightning, whatever you want to talk about. Two undefeated teams at 2-0, throwing down against BLG. And let me tell you, Mark, this series goes 2-0 up for Thundertalk, and I'm thinking, here we go. The classic BLG reverse sweep is inevitable.
Wasn't even sweating as you see those two losses go up on the board, and relatively, comfortable wins from the side of Thundertalk in those first early games. And you get to that game 3, and we get finally the BLG performance that we were more or less waiting for. You start to get that fight back. You get those wins for players like Bin, like Knight. We're seeing this team start to pop off. You get game 4, and it's even more of the same. It's more of the pop off. It's more of the BLG power show. We're heading to game 5. This is it. Everything Thundertalk worked for early in those 2 games, it's all going to be for waste. But we're in for the Game 5 surprise of a lifetime for this Valentine's Day.
Yeah, it's the 2 shortest games of the series for BLG to force this Game 5, and I think 99% of the planet that would be watching this game is going, yep, here's the stomp over in BLG. But somehow, some way, after losing 2 games in a row, Thundertalk refocuses, reshifts, and put up their best performance of the series. We're talking 20 kills to 1. A single kill is all BLG got. One of the deaths was an execute or an Atacon respawn. So 1 kill, they get completely dismantled. You can say the Tarek performance from On is probably right up there with one of the worst games of his career.
What is it with LPL supports this year? We've been seeing the Elise support out of there, and that's certainly not working out. Even a staple like Tarek getting a performance like this one from a premier support in the LPL, like On. Rough look for the region recently in that type of role, but not a rough look from Thundertalk in this Game 5. They put together a relatively cohesive draft throughout the Fearless part of this year, and then they get through in this game. You're dishing out Game 5, 0-5 for Bin, 0-5-1 for Way. What is going on?
Getting solo boloed by D+ all-time great Hoya in that top side. Obviously, the Fearless draft we got. Game 5 wasn't even that crazy. Tarek's really the only off-meta pick. We're seeing more Aatrox lately, but listen, anytime there's a huge upset like this, you're going, okay, what percentage of this is the underdog overperforming? What percentage is the favorite underperforming? And now, of course, Bin is getting roasted online for saying, we didn't study or watch any games for Thundertalk coming into this, to which I go, okay, I get your BLG. You guys haven't played in 3 weeks, and you didn't watch a single VOD? Stop playing an ARAM and watch 30 minutes of Thundertalk.
I'm over here praying that that's a translation error, because how are you giving that information freely out after what goes on here that you're not practicing against anybody reviewing these type of things? I get it. Maybe you don't want to, or, you're focusing on the higher end type of stuff. Okay, but you have enough time. That's one thing if it's, okay, well, we got to hit the Rift tomorrow. Don't worry about it. Whatever. We're hitting the Rift the next day from now. Okay, we will, still don't worry about it. You got 2 weeks, a week and a half, 2 weeks plus since we have seen BLG on the Rift. You can't even be bothered to check out one VOD or so? This is crazy, and especially to see the heights and success that you had last year, only to come up short in that finals against T1, and then to go back to the LPL, and this is how you're treating the day-to-day? Come on, guys.
And I know, Way and On were the ones that are easy to look at that had an off day, but I'm still giving this the edge to Thundertalk. Yes, surprising BLG, but they played lights out, especially the 3 wins that they got. They weren't close. We're talking 62-19 in kills across the board in those 3 wins, and 28 to 5 in turrets. 5 turrets total BLG were able to get in those 3 losses.
And I think the important thing for me, again, with this for Thundertalk is still checking in with that fearless draft and seeing what was taken early, what's not being taken, all these type of things. And to get those wins early and in the fashion that they did, controlling the power picks, understanding, as we talked pretty much about in the T1 series yesterday, some of the strategies of going, okay, you can take this, but you're not going to have that in the next game, all these type of things. They seem to understand to utilize that power when you've got it. They know that this is the card, we're laying it down. We're not going to have this one come the second time around, third time around through this deck. You got to make this hand work. That is exactly what we saw from Thundertalk, and I think that that deserves an extra recognition through this fearless experiment we are now having across the league.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of force the Bin Jacks to come out in Game 3 because they're on match point. Their backs against the wall, and really it ends up being the Twitch for Elk that's kind of the standout in that third game. But on the Thundertalk side, specifically, gotta highlight Mr. 1XN, who, dominated that Game 5 and throughout the whole series, and Satab as well in a matchup against the best mid laner in the LPL in Night. Time and time again, it was Satab that was making the highlight reel plays.
That was straight up David versus Goliath type of matchup in the mid lane for Satab versus Knight, and to have the presence that he was able to have throughout this series. I'm not just talking about the wins, even in some of these losses where there are some of these struggles. I thought his performance was exemplary from him rising up to that challenge that was on the other side for the day. And as you already laid out, 1XN, my man really stepped up to the plate to be able to be that consistent, to be in the positions that he was, to be relied upon for his team with that damage threat.
And I know it's easy to go, okay, well, BLG lost the game. They're still top 2 going to the next round. Who cares? Doesn't really matter. Well, now they're immediately in the losers bracket for this playoff push. There's no extra life for them, which, I mean, let's be honest, last year they didn't need the extra life. They were usually winning their way through the bracket, but this is probably going to be a wake-up call, and I expect BLG to run through this losers gauntlet, but this has a bigger impact than you think. Number one, I mean, Thundertalk are guaranteed top 8 and are on the top 4 side of the bracket, but BLG has a lot longer of a road, and again, one off day, and they're in an early exit from the playoffs.
I want someone at the BLG studios to basically just pull off the full-on Looney Tunes cartoon wake-up. I want the full bucket of ice water thrown on the players in the morning, wake them up, say, hey, come on, we're going up. We're watching Thundertalk games to start the day out and start on what we should have had already in our practice schedule. I expect that there will be some type of fire. I don't know if it's going to be all the way to the cartoonish extent that I want to see, but I think there will be a fire lit under these players to re-establish, reinsert themselves into the minds of everybody, of understanding that this was a blip. We are the top team of the LPL.
Yeah, and I think there's obviously going to be a sense of pride amongst these players as the 2-time defending champs to kind of make a statement to get back on top of things. But listen, some of these other 2 seeds that they're potentially matching up against, you're talking Weibo, probably Top Esports, Invictus Gaming. You tell me BLG couldn't potentially lose a series to one of those squads?
Very much so in the danger zone, and this is one of the ones where, you know, I've seen some conversation about this one and people saying, oh, thankfully this doesn't have elimination quite yet, and, you know, alluding to T1 and Hanwha Life situation that we just had.
Sure.
It's a different stage of it, knowing that we're in the group stage still, but then yes, it is directly into that win or die type of situation for BLG. And the teams that they will be going up will be a threat in this LPL early part of it. And you better believe all these LPL teams extra hungry now that T1 is eliminated from that first strike event. Everybody knows, yes, there is that extra target, extra incentive to go up against T1. But the events that T1 is not there, there is a vacuum. There is a gap. Someone's going to jump in and claim that number 1. Can it be you without the unkillable Demon King Faker occupying that spot?
And it often does feel like when T1 is not at these international events, it's when the LPL squad representing is often the favorites or coming away with that crown. So we'll see if someone's ready to take that crown from BLG in that playoff push. It wasn't all underdog stories. We go to the NLC and your boys, the Rats, Las Ratones, the pursuit of perfection is still on the menu. A 2-0 against Bulldog Gaming to get themselves to those winter finals. More games that weren't particularly close. Baus has like 8 deaths, but still has a 2k individual gold lead. But this was really a massive bot lane gap across the series as Crowny and Reckless combined for a single death in these 2 games.
As someone who does suffer occasionally from the upset stomach syndrome, I got to give a quick shout out to your boy Crowny, playing through some food poisoning and still
didn't look like it.
My man was out there as a sicko delivering some of this damage out on the Rift alongside Reckless and the rest of Los Ratones. This was another wonderful, very controlled, very powerful win for this organization, for the squad. And I don't know, again, we talk about it so many times. We talk about it with professional players that have a very clear #1 champion that not only are they more comfortable on, their teammates are more comfortable with them on it because they know exactly what the game plan is, how everything operates, the consistency of that pick and power. And that is what Sion represents for a player, a mastermind, a criminally insane man like the Baus in the top side. And what he continues to do, even when teams should know this Sion is coming, this is what he does, this is how they play around it, and there's still nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, the way they play around it is ignore the man in a side lane for the entire game and let him cook, especially when we do still have the odd lane swaps. Sion continues to be the best champion in the game for these lane swaps. Baus getting dove 1v3, getting the kill and the creeps. Perfect. That's exactly how we drew it up. I'm amazed that he still gets to play this pick in any series.
He's opened my eyes to it truly being one of the very few absolute pure anomalies within League of Legends. No matter what the meta is going to be, I feel like you can shove him into a composition, into a figure, as long as you operate and are true to exactly capitalizing on the things about him and his kit that Baus does. And that's what we have seen from him. It has been a very fun trip. Another wonderful weekend and afternoon with the Los Ratones, I think, coming up.
So the Rat Boys are chilling now in those winter finals against Nord. And next up, we're going to have old Ready eSports playing the same Bulldog Gaming that LR just beat in that long extended. Again, this bracket for the NLC is like bigger than the LEC and LTA have been in years past. It's insane how long this playoff run is.
But we talked about this when we were heading into the playoffs, that it was going to be an extremely long and unlikely lower bracket run for Ruddy Esports. But here we are, where they still are in it, and we're very close now. It's 1-2 wins away from getting into that spot and getting that rematch, getting that match against the good old Los Ratones that everybody is hungry for. I'm just saying, seeing all this practice, and then now we had yesterday talking about Double Up starting up his own kind of Los Ratones-esque team for the LTA. I'm seeing Los Ratones play like this, and I'm still worried about what we could match up against it. I don't know. This was impressive.
Well, yeah, all these other teams trying to replicate what Los Ratones is, they're not at their level. Like, I know this is the NLC, so we take it with a grain of salt, but they still look like, in terms of that region, an elite tier squad. Would love to see them against some better competition as the year goes on. But lots of other games also to get going over the weekend. LCK playoffs are back. LEC playoffs. We're heading to Brazil for the LTA. It's going to be a spicy weekend on the Rift. But that is it today for League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you, beauties. Thanks for hanging out, and we will catch you on that flippity flip.